Hello, world. Oh, getting too close. Hi, Kara St. Louis here. Today, I'm told, is International Children's Day. And I did not verify that. I'm just going to say it's International Children's Day because that's what I want it to be today, because there's so much to talk about along those lines tonight. You may or may not remember that I promised to try to do a lot more of these. It's good to know people. It really is good to know people. And in our line of work, there's really only one way to do that, and that is to get on film a bunch and just talk about things that are going on and things that are important. And forgive me if I have to click between one thing and another as we go through this, but it's really rather important, the things that I have to say right now. There are two topics for tonight. One of them has very much to do with the children. We're going to talk about children. And then we're going to talk about the Fae. And those are two things that I'm absolutely passionate about and committed to. And if you didn't already know that, you do now. I am in London right now. It is the 1st of June. Yeah. Okay. So some stuff's been going on over here that has caused a lot of furor here in Europe, in London and in Germany and some of the other European countries. I haven't seen a lot about it in the United States on, say, Facebook, but I have seen people like Alex Jones come out and the people who work for Alex Jones and all of those sorts of things. And mostly what I've seen is what we always see. And this is that technique. This is that technique that's used to draw our attention away from the thing that we're talking about that's critical. And we've gotten in the habit of doing it as if it is the most important thing. And I'm trying really hard right now on several fronts to bring us back to the germinal discussion, the thing that really matters. So I'm going to say that we're going to talk about he who shall not be named. And the reason I'm saying that is because apparently in England, the government can forbid at least the journalists and the newspapers from talking about something. For me, that was huge. For me, that was a very, very big deal. That, unfortunately, was not picked up by a lot of people that I saw anyway in the United States, and that was deeply disappointing. That was deeply disappointing to me. Really, the only thing that we were going to talk about immediately was identity politics. My friend Gilad Atzmon talks about identity politics all the time. Great thing to talk about sometimes, when it's appropriate, when that is actually what's on the table to talk about. But it's also used to inflame people who are discussing the subject so that they don't actually go to what's germinal about the subject. What's germinal about this subject, and I've been living in England now for close to 6 years, so I can tell you that you don't know what's going on over here. I can tell you that because I lived in the US and I've lived here and I've spent a lot of time in Europe. Everything is partitioned off. Everything is, shrouded in cotton. And the reality is that for the last several years, there has been real journalism and real discovery on these grooming gangs. And grooming gangs makes it sound like guys running around with push brooms. That's not what's going on. What's going on is there are gangs of people, men, I guess it's just men, who rape young children and teenagers, vulnerable and perhaps unprotected, perhaps they're in the social services realm, and they brutalize them, and they just, I guess what they're saying is they're grooming them for what, I don't know. But really, honestly, this is going on in England in the hundreds, well, at least the high tens of thousands. And since it's been going on for decades, I would assume that it's going on in the hundreds of thousands. So recently we had a guy We had a guy who filmed a group of these men who were on trial, and there is film of him filming them. He was thinking, I think, that the sentence had already been handed down, when in fact it had the whole thing had been delayed, blah blah blah, and it became all about this guy. It became all about this guy and how it's a false flag and all of that. And you know what, that this is where I have to draw a line. This is where I have to draw a line, because all that nonsense that you guys are talking about right now, the kids, the children that are being by the townsful who are being raped and sodomized and abused and beaten and groomed, that's going on. That seems to be the last thing anybody wants to talk about, and that makes me angry. We have to stop doing that. We have to stop doing that. And there's a certain segment of people who are listening to me right now that will not be able to get over this inflammatory reaction they're going to have to the fact that I will not go into the identity politics and the religion and all of the stuff that's associated with this. I won't do it. I won't do it, because what is that doing? That's taking us away from the children, isn't it? That's taking us away from the children. And the children are the point. The children are the point, are they not? Can we not agree that the children are the point? This week has been just amazing. I've seen this several times in several, subtopics, sub-discussions, okay? The same thing happened when I tried to initiate a discussion about gender neutrality, because this is something that I'm really committed to now too. And the reason, well, there's lots of reasons, but what pushed me over the edge was seeing a poster of a child. I would say it was probably someone who was 17, 18 years old, maybe not that old, who had very bravely put together a poster saying that their preferred pronoun was they and that they were non-binary. And then after I watched several groups just take this apart as if that wasn't a human being who might actually realize that this very courageous gesture that they made was being mocked and ridiculed and objectified and all of these other things. Doesn't matter what we think of it on its own. It doesn't. It just doesn't. The only thing that matters is that as a human being with a soul and heart and dreams and wishes and feelings and a family and a life. And at that moment I saw this poster, I thought, if that person sees this poster, will that person commit suicide? Are there people, well, we know that there are in that particular arena of confusion and substrata in our society, the depression rates are astronomical, the suicide rates are huge. And frankly, I don't know what we can think of ourselves as a class of living being if our reaction to someone like that is, look, I don't know what's going on, I can't tell you what's happening, but I can hold your hand till we get to the other side. Just stay with us. And that is the only human gesture I'm going to accept from now on. Everything else is unacceptable in my view. You don't have to agree with me, but you don't have to follow me either, okay? No problem. Absolutely no problem. One of the other things that came up not too long ago, I'm just going to read this to you because this actually happened. This actually happened, and it's faded into the distance. Even with the alternative community has not picked this up. The alternative community has not picked this up. To my knowledge, I could be wrong. I'm not everywhere all the time, obviously. I'll be corrected if I'm wrong. But did you realize that 18,000 children were found dead and their organs were harvested in Syria when Assad took control of that area of his country again, which was about mid-April? There were underground hospitals, entire road systems under the surface for this purpose, okay? And what do we start to argue about 5 minutes after that story fades away? What do we start to argue about? We argue about the woman who reported the story, Vanessa Beeley. We don't care that something like this has occurred, because we are trained like chimps to follow this pattern of righteous indignation. We go there, so we don't go there, okay? Can you even fathom 18,000 children found dead and their organs were harvested, okay? The families of those children were taken prisoner for years. They didn't see the light of day for 5 or 6 years, okay? And a woman called Vanessa Beeley reported on this. But the whole goddamn story ends up being about Vanessa, okay? So I have another source. I'm going to bring you and read you some excerpts from another source, all right? The information was completely inverted. We talk about that all the time. Who inverts information like that? AI, Draco, satanic sort of groups, the gesture that is so, running down our streets like floods, right? Completely inverted. Assad effectively liberated eastern Damascus from all of this, and no one cares. No one cares, Bing. That's why this is important on International Children's Day. So I have a different source for you. I hope some of you alternative hosts pick it up. Let's see what I got here. Hang on just a sec. I did say we have to be a bit patient with me right now. Here we go. I'll find it right now. And it's in my email in case you can't tell. Okay, so let's pick it up here. Don't know why it disappeared. Of course it would, wouldn't it? But somehow I have a email for other things. Hang on. It is important. If you want to have a look at Vanessa Beeley's work on this, and I recommend that I really recommend that you do, I need for you to go to, oh my gosh, where did it go? Okay. All right. It is, I'll keep looking for it as we talk, but it seems to have disappeared. How do you like that? Okay. So here, there it is. Got it. All right. Let's go here. Anyway, Jessica Beeley's work. That's Beely, I think. I thought it was E. You can find it on the April 12th edition of UK Column on YouTube. I watch UK Column during the week. It's good news. Patrick Henningson's on there, a bunch of people that you know. It's capital U, capital K, Column, COLUMN, April 12th. Vanessa Beeley will walk you through it. She was in Syria. She's probably back in Syria now, and she will show you film, and you need to see this footage. Anyway, so I found another source, right? It's from the Director General of the Syrian Coroner's Office. Okay? Unless you're standing right there, you're going to have to take somebody's word for this, okay? 18,000 Syrian children have had their organs harvested over the last 6 years. Why do they do that in these countries? They do it because they don't drink, and that means the organs are in good shape. Reports from the Director General of the Syrian Coroner's Office affirm that thousands of Syrian children have had their organs harvested since 2011. We have accurate information that over 25,000 surgical operations have been conducted in the refugee camps of the neighboring countries and in the terrorist-controlled areas in Syria since 2011 to take out the body organs of 18,000 Syrians and sell them in the international black markets. Who in the United States has picked up on this, gang? International Day of the Children. I don't want anybody, and maybe what the instant reaction to that is going to be is Assad bashing. And I just can't tell you how sorry I'm going to feel for you if that's what you get out of these statements that I'm making. I want you to understand that this is about the children. It's never about anything but the children. And all this other garbage, all this other nonsense, that's to keep you dancing around their little maypole, okay, in righteous indignation over bullshit, absolute bullshit, okay? Minefields have been set up in so many areas in this fashion, okay? They're littered with half-truths, almost truths, partial truths, dipped in chocolate, dipped in a chocolate coating of not being able to open your mouth because of political correctness. I feel strongly that if we remember our hearts and humanity and latch on to that aspect of each situation, we may be able to see our way through to the other side. But if we don't stop this nonsense, please don't be a chimp about this. Please. Really think about what's actually happened and what's really important, okay? I've been living in London for 6 years, like I said. It's changed enormously since I've lived here. Borders have been dropped all over Europe. The landscape, right or wrong, you have your opinion about that. I have my opinion about that, but I'm just here to tell you as a witness. The landscape over here has changed unbelievably. And the majority of the influx into all these countries, which is to say mostly young males, okay, they're mostly young males who could be, rather than being classified as refugees, they're economic migrants, okay? But the majority of them have disappeared into the population like smoke. I think 1 in 4 in Germany is accounted for. No one's keeping track of them. They're gone. And some say they're adding to the ISIS sleeper cells that are already in place. But who knows? Because nobody knows where they are. So there's some serious stuff going on. There's some serious stuff going on over here. Y'all just go ahead and bicker about the religion. Do it. Just do it, okay? But somebody has to give a damn about the kids. Somebody has to give a damn about the kids, okay? In the end, it's the same old, it's the same old, and it's dangerous. Once you're awake, it's interesting watching the pieces being played on the board. And so what if we talk about the children and not like we're moving sacks of potatoes around a chessboard, huh? What if we don't objectify the whole situation and then get passionate about identity politics, which includes, by the way, identity politics, sub-religion, sub-culture, sub-gender, sub-blah, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I just want to talk about the children, because without the children, we're screwed anyway, right? Right, okay. Anyway, I'm currently trying to make this point in most of the discussions, and I've had people get really angry with me because rather than seg off into some well-worn path about how we got here, I bring it right back to the children, and they think I'm being such a biatch when I do that. Let's talk about the children. Well, what about this? Let's go back to this. Oh, and they stomp off in righteous indignation because I didn't want to go down that well-worn path. Anyway, I bring it back to the children, the young people being raped and tormented and having their organs harvested, okay? International Children's Day, indeed. The other thing I want to talk about is the Fae. All right, somebody suggested to me that I create some kind of initiation into the Fae, which is a really good idea, but not as easy as it sounds, okay? Because I'm not riding the fairy gravy train that's going on out there. When I did Bases 45 Part 4, which is a couple years ago, I mentioned the Fae for the first time. Wasn't really ready to talk about it. From then on, though, the last 2 years or so, I guess everyone feels like they have to say something about the Fae, especially if they're in the megalith community or the sources of magical community or anything like that, okay? They don't talk about the Fae. If they talk about the Fae, what they're bringing to you is this conglomeration of whatever known as fairy, all right? And it's been difficult to wrench the Fae out of the lava flow of fairy lore and most of which, by the way, is nonsense, okay? We're talking about other elemental beings with their own abilities, their own place in the world, and their own they're deserving of respect in their own right, okay? I've been talking about the Fae for a while. I've got a book out called Guardians of Blood and Fire, all right? But then I was blown away a little bit by the sheer sort of hurricane of bad information that came pouring out of people, trying to figure out where to put my energy, okay? And knowing, as soon as I started discussing the real story, a few folks, the same ones every time, and by the way, we all know, would rebrand my work a little bit and run with it. And then I finally realized I can't care about that because no one's hearing what I have to say. So I have so much information and I just have to put it out there, okay? Another thing I learned was that people are taking in their info, not just in a Hegelian dialectic fashion, meaning problem, reaction, solution, but in a new way, physically, orally, okay? So I've offered it up as a pay-per-view video. Like people want to go to a film right away, boom, they watch it, they love it. Then after a while, I'll revamp it, deepen it, and put it out as what might even be considered right now as a quaint little DVD. Although they're gorgeous, I'm very proud of them, but they're twice as expensive to manufacture. And then, but I've surrendered to the fact that this is how people are taking information in now, you know? Some people are saying it needs to be a book. Yeah, it sure does. But the hierarchy of how people take in information has changed, and I'm just surrendering to that right now. So there you have it, okay? So the first DVD is out. It's been out for a while. I did a live 2-part lecture on the Fae just to test the waters and see in January. And then it took me a couple of months to get the DVD out because it was just an interesting process. It's out. It's been out for a while. But what I've done now is put out the pay-per-view. I've learned how to do that. And you can find it on Facebook. There's 2 parts. Just follow the instructions, okay? That's the only place I've got it right now is to find it is Facebook. But you know, it's an examination. The first one is an examination of some of the most important Bardic tales, which by the way are initiatory tales. These are initiations. There are so many layers to Bardic tales, you have no idea. And the science, if you will, behind my statements about a seed race, but I'm not saying a seed race, I'm saying the seed race, okay? First came Source, then came the Fae. So anyway, find them on Facebook, interact with me on Facebook about the Fae. Let's get the straight story out, shall we? Okay, I think it's really important. And I've decided I'm just gonna keep moving along those lines in terms of trying to get actual information about the Fae out. Okay, the real stuff. The real stuff's absolutely fascinating. I don't know why anybody would need to make anything up except other than the fact that they don't really know what they're talking about, which kind of happens sometimes. Okay, so that's what I wanted to say today. I wanted to say that today because I'm growing ever more concerned and ever more active about the idea that we are so supremely disconnected from our empathy and compassion for each other, which is not unusual anymore, adult to adult. But this can't be tolerated with our children anymore. It can't be tolerated with our children anymore. And so whether it's gender and the brutalizing of those children that's going on, or it's war, or it's the organized kidnapping system that is the foster care system, or it is gangs running around our countries grooming and raping and sodomizing our children. This is what needs to be addressed. This is what needs to be addressed right now. So help me, help them, help you, help me, help you, help them, and all of that. And meet me on Facebook so we can talk about that. And so we can talk about the Fae, right? Okay, happy Friday, guys. Bye.